it's a really lovely, easy one, Esther's request to the king. It's funny that in a reading that's titled Esther's request to the king, the one thing that we don't really seem to get from this reading is Esther's request. She does request that he and Haman come to 2 banquets, but she also lets them know that this isn't her actual request. This is just the staging for it. So as Esther says in the reading, "Let the king and Haman come tomorrow to the banquet I will prepare for them. Then I will answer the king's question." So what stands out to us in this reading perhaps isn't actually Esther's request. It's the delay. It's her saying, "Not yet." Indeed, this passage opens with the phrase, "on the 3rd day." So today I want to suggest that all this stalling that's built into the story isn't an inconvenience, and it's not Esther trying to be irritating. It's a crucial reminder to us of the power of not yet. That if we want real results, powerful, God-granted results, we have to get comfortable with giving God time to work. I know it's easier said than done, I do, but the results are nothing short of miraculous. Esther began by fasting for 3 days and nights, hence the opening for today's passage on the 3rd day. Let's just sit with that for a moment. If we go back to God's talk last week, Esther's entire community are being threatened with genocide. Because of her privileged position as the queen and her secrecy about being Jewish, she probably could escape the killing. But she's also perhaps the only one who can do something to stop this catastrophe. Her response? For 3 full days, she dedicates herself completely to God in an act of subservience and devotion. Traditionally, fasting comes along with spending more time in prayer and contemplation. It's also a petition to God for help. In the face of Haman's rage and the impending doom of the Jews, Esther chooses to be still and invite God into the situation. We might normally think of doing nothing as a sign of weakness or of being utterly overwhelmed by a situation. I'm so scared that I can't do anything. But this is totally different. Esther holds back from the human impulse for vengeance, for immediate, rash actions. There's real fortitude in Esther's stillness. Be honest with yourself. You don't have to say it out loud, so you can be honest. How many times have you blurted something out or acted rashly when you're enraged and then regretted it later? How many times have you rushed in and made something worse, ended up in a slanging match instead of just giving everybody a chance to breathe and calm down and have a bit of a think? So Esther does that. She's in a horrible situation, and she chooses to take 3 days to fortify herself with fasting. Her husband, King Xerxes, then tells her she can have anything she wants, even up to half his kingdom. It's a good thing she took time to censor herself and censor God in the story, or who knows what she would have asked for. That temptation to enact vengeance for the threat against her people must have been incredibly strong. Here we see a woman who is able to stay composed and do what's right because she came into the situation ready in God. She took that time to charge her spiritual battery so that she would be strong when the time came. I invite you to consider what it would take to charge your spiritual battery, setting you up to make the best decisions that you can at work, at home, and in your community. What energizes your personal faith? Is it quiet reflection and contemplation like Esther? Is it something louder, more social, like a Sunday service? Do you get recharged when you have space to ask questions and explore? Maybe small group or alpha? Whatever works for you, do it. The results are powerful. Esther is able to sit down with Xerxes and Haman today and ask them to return tomorrow. She makes room for God to work, even though it must have been so tough. I'm going to leave what happens next in the story to later speakers, because we're doing a whole study of Esther at the moment. But for now, let's just say that in that evening that she creates for God to work, God very much steps in. helping the king to see through Haman's villainy. And things turn out a lot better than if Esther had tried to take it all into her own hands. Now, pivoting a little, but it's going to become relevant, I promise. I'm sure many of you are familiar with an old psychological experiment called the marshmallow test. Just in case you're not, here's the idea. A child gets put in a room with one marshmallow in front of them, and they're told they are allowed to eat the marshmallow now, or they can wait until the researcher comes back, and if the treat is still there, they get 2 marshmallows. And then the researcher goes out the room, leaves them alone for about 10 to 15 minutes. The results are both super cute and a testament to just how hard delaying gratification can actually be. So if we have the video.
Okay, so that's your. Alright, here's the deal. Marshmallow for you. You can either wait, and I'll give you another one if you wait. Or you can eat it now. When I come back, I'll give you another, so we don't have to. But stay in here and stay in the chair till I come back, okay? All right. How'd you do? You good? You did? You wanted to, didn't you? Yeah. So the plate is getting another one. Okay, now you can both.
I love the little girl that's eating it before she's even left the room. So just like we'll see as we continue with Esther, if the children could resist the temptation to rush in and act straight away, the reward they got later on was even better, 2 marshmallows. But at this point I want to hone in on another finding from this experiment. Over the years, the researchers followed up with many of the children who'd sat the test, and they found something incredible. Being able to resist the marshmallow when they were little correlated strongly with a better quality of life later on. Children who have more of an innate ability to resist temptation and delay rewards were more likely to have a higher level of education, to go into a more skilled job. They were less prone to addiction, and they reported greater feelings of satisfaction with their lives as adults than the children who couldn't resist having the treat now. So what's that got to do with Esther, and what's it got to do with us? What I think both stories teach us is that patience and steadfastness grant us 2 kinds of rewards. There's the tangible reward, there's what's going to come for Esther, there's getting 2 marshmallows. But there's also the greater reward that's intangible. I think we all know deep down that when we think about times when we have rushed in and blurted and done harm, we are better people when we're patient. We're more loving. We're more interested in finding common ground rather than just trying to hurt people. We're more focused on solving problems than on simply winning the argument for ourselves. I really believe that sometimes God wants us to wait. Not only because he has got something amazing coming for us, but because there's grace in the waiting. And I remember finding this so hard at a particular point in my life. Back in 2019, I was coming to the end of a contract in Nottingham and I was having absolutely no luck finding a job in academia anywhere else. And then to make it worse, my housemate had found a job in Birmingham, so I was going to have to move out. With no work on the horizon, it pretty much looked like my only option was to head back to my parents' house at the age of 28. The year before, I'd had a pretty rough breakup and I was over the breakup itself, but this period in 2019 coincided with when we would have been getting married if things had continued. So here I was instead filling out job applications, surrounded by boxes and my housemate's guinea pig for company, and it didn't feel good. I felt utterly lost, and for weeks I moped, and for weeks nothing happened. And then I started to really think about it. What did I actually love about the job I'd been doing? What did I love about academia? What would be the right place for me to go next? And I realised it wasn't actually the research. I loved the teaching more than anything else. And when I asked myself if I was really that upset about the prospect of moving back to Bury, I realised, no, I wasn't. I was actually quite excited about it. I was just afraid of what that looked like from the outside. Ooh, moving back at your age. In that stillness, I started to see the beginnings of a path forward. So I applied for teacher training in North Manchester and I moved home. And dominoes started slowly to fall into place. Got about halfway through my teacher training, met James, who became my husband, and in a couple of months I'm planning to promote him to father of this baby. I got a job in Haslington, so then I bought my house and was able to kind of put down some roots. And then that brought me to St Anne's. God gave me everything that I couldn't see a way to. But it didn't happen overnight because I was asking him for a whole life. I wasn't asking him for magic beans. And it takes time to put that together. I had to, and we have to, get comfortable with the waiting. We have to give God time to work. Think back in your own life. When have you not gotten the thing you thought you really wanted? Or you've not gotten it on the time scale that you wanted? Only to be blessed with so much more in the long run. Where can you see God's plan playing out now with the gift of hindsight, where you just couldn't see it when you were in the middle of it? And what did you learn in the waiting that made you a better person than you were before you were tested? Maybe you don't think that's ever happened to you. Maybe nothing springs to mind. So I'll finish by reminding you that Esther is the only book in the Bible that never explicitly mentions God. And this can be one of the hardest things about waiting for him to work. The uncertainty. It can feel like he isn't working or isn't aware of our situation. But as Christians, we trust that he does have his hand on the situation. And when we look back, we see that he wasn't being silent and he wasn't saying no. He was saying, I've got this. Give me time to work. And when God gets to work, amazing things happen.